Well, welcome. We're just waiting for a couple other things to take place here. Very happy to be back with you. All right, I'm just going to make sure my tones are shut off and we are good to go. Well, welcome. I'm Mary Jo Feely. Welcome. Happy New Year. I can go ahead and say that since this is the first time that we've had a crystal conversation in 2024. I am thrilled with the questions that have been coming in. I look forward to exploring those questions because my time that I like to carve out here pretty much once a month, we do tend to take a couple pauses throughout the year. But for the most part, I like to carve some time out to help answer questions for you, help you get a sense of how you are working with the crystals and gemstones that you may have, perhaps curious about exploring some that you don't have yet, but you're thinking about, and to interpret through my experience and through my understanding of crystal healing how we can work with these wonderful stones to be able to support body, mind, spirit healing. If you're new to my work, I'm going to take just a second and introduce myself. I'm Mary Jo Feely. I am the owner of Fourth Dimension Healing in Stillwater, Minnesota, and that is my energy and crystal healing practice. I offer Reiki classes, I offer mentoring courses and or mentoring conversations. I also offer light language healing sessions through Fourth Dimension Healing. I also have an online school called the Center for Crystal and Healing Studies, and it's through that online school where I offer self-paced blended courses in Reiki, energy healing, and crystal healing. And when I say blended, what that basically means is that there is an aspect of the course material that you move through. It's kind of on demand and you work through it as your schedule and life allows. And then there are times throughout the courses where there are some pause points where you and I have an opportunity to do some one-on-one mentoring. So there are going to be some links below this video that you can certainly check out. Also, sometimes I'm able to put little cards. I think they show up here on your screen that will give you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about my online school. I also have a podcast. It's called the Ask, Learn, Heal podcast, and I explore wellness and health related issues and situations. And I do focus on energy healing, crystal healing, self-care, and an opportunity to develop your spiritual abilities to connect with inner guidance through guided meditations. So again, the links will be available for you below this video. In the chat that is currently running, if you have any questions and are viewing this live, go ahead and put your questions right in there, and I will do my best to remember to check that chat window. I do not replay the chat window, so just know that when we are all done here today, I will go ahead and publish this live stream typically within 24 to 48 hours is when I'm able to get that done. And then that is pushed out publicly without the actual comments made visible. So I hope that gives you a little bit of information about who I am if you are new to my work. I've been collecting questions, as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to go ahead and just get started because there are some amazing questions. And if we don't get to all the questions, no worries. I will reach out to the person who submitted that question so that they get their answer right away, and then I'll revisit that question first next month. So this first question, actually there are two questions within this question. So I'm going to read the first part and then we'll revisit the second part. Hi there. I love that. Hi there. I have a couple questions regarding what crystals would you suggest to use and take with you when you are traveling that you could keep in your vehicle or even with you in your pocket? So this is a really good question, and I would say it's a loaded question because there's so much in this. And so when I hear the questions, I do some sitting with the questions, and then I gather gemstones and crystals that I work with in my healing practice and that I have available to be able to help explore the question and put it in context with a particular crystal or stone. So one of the things I've done, and you can see I've got a collection of stones that I want to reference in response to this first part of this question. Now, one of the things that I found when I was first starting to work with crystals and gemstones is I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what was what. I didn't really know the difference between the different members, for example, of the quartz family. And if you're curious about that, we talked about that. I believe it was in the last, one of the last couple live Q&As, and I always have timestamps in the description of each of my videos, so you can check there. I also offer what's called Rock Talk videos, which is, you'll find those here on my YouTube channel as well. And I will link the Rock Talk video about the quartz family so that you can take a peek at that. So before I get too far ahead of myself, just to remind you, we all have to start with not having any idea of what to do with all these stones and how to keep them straight in our heads. And I always come back to making sure you're balancing the information that you're reading about, you're hearing about, for example, right now, with your own personal experience with this stone. It's both and. And so with that all being said, one of the things that I have found helpful is to be able to kind of isolate or almost like separate out some of the stones that will help us have a better sense of how to navigate the vastness of crystal healing. One of the things I have in my online shop, and I invite you to go out to my webpage, click on the shop, and take a look at what I've got because you'll learn a lot about the stones there. But one of the things I have is a collection of stones that are related to creating a crystal toolkit. And I have 3 different collections. One is 5 stones, one is 10 stones, and one is 15 stones. I brought the 15 stone set today to give you an idea of the vastness of these different types of crystals that we work with. So here's the question. What crystal would I suggest to use and take with when we're traveling? So we have to think about, what do I need when I'm traveling? Do we need to feel relaxed and calm? Do we need to get kind of motivated and fired up? We're going on we're traveling and maybe we don't particularly care to travel, but we're doing it anyway. There are some of those needs are going to be arising. Maybe we feel like we just are really exhausted and we need more energy to be able to do this traveling. Each of those needs is going to, in some ways, influence which stones we work with. So one of the things I want to always do, and you'll hear it if you listen to other videos, is to start with getting grounded and in our body. And we do that by working with the earth element. And there are, I'm not going to pull all these out today, but I do want you to have a sense that there are different stones for different reasons. So earth is about getting settled. So if I want to get settled and really in my body, this, for example, is a piece of black tourmaline. This is a great stone to help really ground us, get us settled into where we are. And if we're traveling, whether we're traveling by car or we're flying and we're dealing with all of that navigating travel experience, getting grounded and present and also keeping our energy field clear is going to be really helpful when we travel. And so black tourmaline would be wonderful. This can easily go in a pocket. I often will work with crystals and stones inside my pillowcase. So it may be that you're not physically carrying it with you, but you are sleeping with it so that it's in your energy field. This could go on the console of your car, or it could go in a backpack or a carry-on as well. So this is an example of an earth stone that could be very grounding. Now, let's say we're traveling, we're kind of pooped, kind of exhausted. We've been pulling all of our activities together to get us ready to go traveling, and now we need a little boost of energy. This is where, for example, working with a piece of ruby can be very effective. Ruby is an earth element stone. It connects with this vital energy in the earth to be able to help draw up that vital energy and get it into our physical body and our energetic system so that we feel more energized. That would be an example of using a stone, working with a stone that is earth oriented, yet has a little bit different nuance. Now, the other one that here, for example, I brought is a piece of shungite. And now shungite really is fabulous for clearing the electromagnetic field. And when we look at our physical body, yes, we have skin, we have bones, we have tissue, and we also have this energetic body that emanates out from our physical body. And shungite is very effective in helping to clear the entire energy field. So if I'm going to be traveling, let's say I'm going to be flying, I'm going to have a couple of layovers, that's a lot of chaos, right? Black tourmaline can be really helpful with that. And there is a lot of bombardment with electromagnetic frequency when you're moving through a large space like an airport. So working with a piece of shungite, carrying it in a pocket, slipping it inside a little pouch that maybe is attached to your belt loop, putting it in a purse or a backpack. Sometimes they're small enough you can almost slip them like right inside a wallet so that you have it near you. So that's an example of 3 stones, all part of this earth grounding kind of, and they have different qualities. Now, just as another example, let's say we're really kind of nervous. Maybe we have to fly and we don't like to fly. Maybe we are going to be driving and we don't really know where we're going. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons that we can get unsettled when we travel. Maybe we're traveling to be with maybe some extended family and we're not so keen on that. There are all kinds of emotions that move through traveling as well. And when we're working with emotions, we can think about that need and that sense of wanting to calm down. And there are a couple stones I wanted to point out for that. One of them would be rose quartz. Rose quartz is this beautiful calming and soothing and loving kind of vibrational energy. And it's particularly helpful for us to work with this sense of self-compassion and self-love, because that's sometimes hard for us. And so working with a piece of rose quartz can be really helpful. Again, maybe you don't like flying and you're really nervous, and holding it in your hand can be something that will help you to be able to feel a little bit more settled. There's another stone here. This is called lepidolite. And lepidolite is very, very calming as well. It's really helpful if a person's feeling a bit anxious. And so again, both of these stones are examples of stones that would be able to be very calming. So in this collection of stones, of which I brought the whole thing today, I just wanted to show you that if you go out onto my website, take a look at the toolkit options and take a look at those stones and what those stones bring to you. I built those 3 kits specific for the energetic properties that they bring in that can help overall support body, mind, spirit. Now, the other thing about this particular set, the 5, the 10, and the 15, is those gemstones are directly linked to my ebook on crystal healing. And if you go to my website, and I'll put the link below this video as well, you are able to go and click on that free ebook about crystal healing and how it can transform our life. So take a look at that. I think working with that ebook and then being able to work with the stones, whether you have them or whether you are looking them up online and whether you're exploring their energies and properties, that would be a very good way, I believe, that you could get a sense of which stones you might want to work with when you travel. Because first you have to back that up a little bit and say, what do I need? Do I need to be calm? Do I need to not worry? Do I need to be more present and grounded and just go with the flow? Those questions lead you to the gemstones. And so I guess that I'm hopeful that that's helpful. And then again, putting things in your pocket. I often will have stones with me for sure. That is without a doubt. If I did not answer that question, I'm going to ask this person to go ahead and just get back, just email me back and I will reach back out to you. The other part of this question, the second part says, what crystals help with arthritis and how to use them to help promote healing from the pain? Great question. And so with that, I actually have pulled 3 specific stones that I think can be really helpful in addressing the inflammatory response that we experience with arthritis. Now, I have dealt with tendonitis off and on for almost a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, and it's right here in my wrist. And one of the things I'm very mindful of is the fact that I am working specifically with a couple of stones to be able to support the calming of that inflammatory response. One of the things that I like to work with arthritis and to help guide those who are seeking an answer to this particular question is to take a look at stones that have a lot of copper in them. Copper has been known for a very long time to be able to support anti-inflammatory properties. And I remember I had an uncle who always wore a copper bracelet because he had arthritis in his wrist. So the first stone I like to think about when it comes to arthritis is malachite. Malachite is this wonderfully banded, beautiful stone. It's hard, I know, to see. This is the beauty of the internet. You can go out and Google some high quality, like museum quality pieces if you're really kind of getting a sense of what the stone is looking like. Malachite is a wonderful stone to work with. If you notice, here's my malachite bracelet. This is the one of the 2 that I wear on my right wrist because of the tendonitis that comes and goes, that I always wear, and it helps support the healing in that space. The other one I wear is a bracelet of shungite, and shungite, we just talked about shungite. This is the one that helps clear the electromagnetic field. So I keep the 2 together because shungite can help support and balance other stones when worked with together. And I did talk about working with shungite and other stones, and I wonder if that was maybe in October or November of 2023. It's been just a little while, so you can always take a look at that as well. So that I wear intentionally for that purpose. Now, when we're working with gemstones and crystals, it is important, I'm going to say it again, you might get tired of hearing me say it, it's not about putting a rock in our pocket. It is about developing a relationship with that particular stone and setting intentions that not only, for example, am I working with malachite, and maybe this is a little bit big to put in a pocket, but there are lots of different sizes. And some of these, I would say there's a vast amount of these that are really good examples of what I carry in my shop. Uh, it could be that when I'm working with malachite and I'm working around the concept of arthritis, I'm also thinking about my entire well-being. What am I eating that might be causing a flare up and my whole body is a bit more reactive? Uh, are there particular substances that maybe I should be limiting, but I really am not? So it makes us pause and do a little discerning around what else might we be able to do to support our healing in addition to only wearing a bracelet and thinking there's something magic about that malachite, because it doesn't really work that way. Now, there are a couple other stones that also can be quite helpful when we are working with arthritis, and one of them is carnelian. So carnelian is a form, it's an agate. It is a cryptocrystalline quartz, which means that it really is like a piece of quartz, but we don't see the structure of it unless we look at it microscopically. I love carnelian because there's such a wide variety of how it shows up. Sometimes they're really deep orange. Sometimes, like this, there's quite a bit of banding. Both malachite and carnelian really resonate with like this fiery energy within us, and it can help balance fire. And so when my tendonitis is acting up, and perhaps if you're experiencing arthritis, it's the same thing. It's like there are some hot spots going on within that part of the body, and it can help to settle things down. So carnelian is one. And then also another option to consider would be fluorite. Now, fluorite is a very cooling stone. It's very much about taking chaotic energy and helping to calm it down and get it reorganized. Sometimes, isn't that perhaps what happens when we get an inflammation within our body? Now, in this case, we're talking about arthritis, and I'm using my tendonitis as an example. And what if we have a rash, or what if we have a sore foot and there's inflammation? Sometimes what we really are working on doing is helping that part of the body reestablish equilibrium and calming and clearing out stagnant energy will help that. And that, I would say, is where the fluorite will come in. Fluorite, all kinds of different colors. This is a piece of raw fluorite. It's not polished at all, which makes me want to mention you can have a really pretty piece of fluorite. You can have a what appears to be very plain, kind of unpolished, rough piece. They're both fluorite. They're both going to have similar properties. And you will notice if you're working with each of those types of fluorite, that one will give you a particular response one way, and you'll respond differently with another piece. So work with your stones. In the chat, for example, I have listed my online school, the Center for Crystalline Healing Studies. I've also listed the Ask, Learn, Heal podcast, and I have podcasts about how to work with stones. So feel free to go out there and check those out too. So I hope that helps. That would be an example of some stones I could recommend for arthritis. Okay. Just checking my chat. All right, this is a really great question. Are there any stones that you could recommend during extremely cold weather to warm one's body? Great question. So you can see I'm wearing layers. It's a little brisk in Minnesota in January of 2024. If you go back a year ago and take a look at some of those monthly videos, we had a really rough winter. This, we've had a pretty easy winter, and it's been a bit cold. So this particular question coming in, I think, is really spot on, because it does help us to explore what stones and crystals might be helpful for us to work with during different times that we experience in our life. So there are several ideas that I wanted to bring to this conversation. The first one is going to start once again with kind of getting grounded. And when I think about being too cold, and um, if we run cold or we're chilly, there are a couple things going on. We need more metabolism movement within our body, and we need to be able to connect with our physical body and get that body moving. And one of the ways to do that is working with stones, again, that resonate with that earth. Now, we talked about, we had some ruby and shungite and black tourmaline we've already talked about. There's another one of my favorites for working with the physical body, and that is smoky quartz. So smoky quartz is really grounding. And when I think about being too cold, the first thing we do when we're cold is we do this, right? We really pull in. And I believe that with my experience with smoky quartz, it's going to help kind of get a solid base in that physical body, because that's what earth related stones do. There's, again, a piece of ruby. Here's another piece that's quite different. They're both ruby. If you work with this one or you work with this one, you're going to have different experiences, which is fabulous. Just know which stone you're working with and which stone you may want to work with for a particular situation. So these are examples of a couple of stones that help us connect with that earth energy and draw that energy up. There are other examples of stones that support that earthing, and I like that word earthing, doesn't it? It's kind of like we really do have to connect with that earth. Here is a piece of red jasper. It's one of my favorite stones to work with. It's so nurturing, and jaspers are very nurturing. So having something like this to work with could be really effective. Now, as I'm holding this stone is very cold right now. So if I were to hold it for a long time, it may or may not warm up to my body temperature. Don't worry about if your stone gets warm or if it doesn't get warm. It has to do with what's going on at an energetic level as well. But this is a fabulous stone, and these are very abundant. This is another example, a jasper. All jaspers are cryptocrystalline quartz, which means it's a part of the quartz family. Loosely, it has silicon dioxide and other minerals, and it is at a microscopic level, we would see the same structure pattern that we would if we were looking at a larger piece of quartz. So that's earth. The other stone system that I think can be really helpful for warming up would be working with stones that resonate with fire. Because again, fire is going to be about metabolism. It's about circulation. And if we're chilly and it's really cold outside, what we're trying to do is get that inner furnace going, and working with stones that resonate with the fire element can be really helpful. So I brought 3 to show you. Again, carnelian. Do you notice I'm going back to carnelian? This is, and I don't want to say I'm biased about carnelian, but it's just a powerhouse type of stone to work with. So if you don't have a carnelian, you may want to consider that to be able to be added to your toolkit. Okay, so carnelian gets that inner fire going. Calcite is a stone that resonates with fire. And when we're working with the fire element, we're working with that second and third chakra. So behind me, if you're new to my work, I typically will sit in front of this little hanging. So we have that root chakra, which is red. And then we have the orange, which is in our lower abdomen. That's the sacral chakra. And then the yellow chakra is the solar plexus chakra, and that's in our upper abdomen. The second and the third chakras are fire-related chakras. That's where the metabolism, that's where the creativity and all that extra energy gets churning. This is why I like to work with fire element stones, particularly with this question about, are there any stones that you could recommend during extremely cold weather to warm one's body? This would be another example. The final fire element stone that I wanted to show you is rhodonite. Now, rhodonite in some ways is not as it appears. It's not uncommon for us to think about pink stones being very soothing and loving and kind of supporting the heart space. Here is the rose quartz, right? Very, very common to have pink stones support that heart space. There was that lepidolite. Oh, here it is. This lepidolite, kind of a purplish lavender pink. Again, heart space. Oops, heart space. So this is a little different. Rhodonite is going to be pink, and sometimes you'll see blacks and whites, but this is all about fire. There's some earth in there, but it's a lot about fire. So I would say working with rhodonite also could be really effective. And when I'm talking about working in this particular manner with this particular question, I would encourage you, if you have some stones that you can hold, they don't have to be big like this. It could be that you are going to hold a couple of the smaller stones and sit with those, and don't just Netflix, don't just, just kind of be unconscious with what you're doing. Intentionally sit with those stones and invite them to connect with your physical body and your energetic body to help get these energy pathways and meridians. They're the meridians and the nadis that move through our body. That's what you're connecting with when you're working with these stones. And so I am not by any stretch of the imagination an expert in traditional Chinese medicine. And I say that because I would invite you to go out and do some of that learning on your own if this is something you'd like to explore. But we have meridians, we have pathways of energy, and we have various aspects that control different functions within the body. And one of them is related to 3 specific points in the body called the triple heater that will generate the heat within the body. And when I'm thinking of heat, I'm not just thinking about, oh, I'm too cold. We're also thinking about the heat of digestion. Okay. So think of it that way. There are all these metabolic activities going on within our body, and we can work with stones. Some of those stones, gemstones and crystals, can support that clearing and rebalancing of those energetic pathways and meridians so that that life force energy moves much more effectively. Okay. So I hope that answered that question. All right. Oh, good. This question actually is so timely. And I know you've probably heard me say that before, but it's always interesting to me how these questions just seem to kind of roll out one upon the other. So this question is, just checking the chat. You talk about healing with the elements and crystals. Clearly, I've been doing that, right? Can you say more about how to combine them and maybe give some examples? Great. I have a number of videos specific for the various types of elements, in particular gemstones and crystals that are associated and resonate with those energies. So I invite you to take a look at those. And I thought before I answer this question related to the stones, I would just very briefly explain to you the system that I work with. I work with an elemental system of earth, fire, water, wind, and storm. Now, storm isn't really an element and we'll get to that. And so when I work with earth, for example, that has to do with the physical body. It has to do with home and house and safety and employment. It's kind of like that stabilizing aspect of life. Then we talk about fire. Fire is about that motivation and activity and creativity and all of the energies that go into that. That's fire. Then we work with water. Water is very soothing. It's releasing. It's associated with emotions. So I will tell you that even though we'll say body, mind, spirit, we do separate out emotions and thoughts because they land a little bit differently within the energy system and they land a little differently within the system of elements that I work with. So water is an element of emotion. So if our emotions are blocked, or if we're over emoting and we're crying all the time, or we're very, very sluggish, it could be that we have an imbalance within that water aspect. Then we have the wind element. Wind is about our head space. It is about thinking. And this is an example where the emotions are going to show up more within that watery element, and the thought processes are going to show up more with the wind element. So if we've got a lot of thoughts that are worrisome, we have some imbalance going on within our wind element, and working with stones will help shift that. Then we've got storm. Storm is more of an event that happens when all the other aspects of all these other elements are balanced. And so there's a lot of transformation going on during that time. One of the things that I found really interesting was that here in Minnesota, we don't have hurricanes. We have storms that blow through. So it's calm before the storm, then the storm, and then it's calm after the storm. If we live where there are hurricanes, we have the storm, we have this calm, then we have more transformation going on. So those are both aspects of what storm can appear like within our normal life, and energetically, those same sorts of activities and energy flows are taking place. I always start with earth because we want that foundation, and then we build upon it. So here the question is, can you say more about the elements and crystals and then how they get combined together? So starting with earth, I wanted to show you a couple examples, more examples, how about that, of earth element stones. So we have pyrite, fool's gold, right? This is a heavy stone. This is a stone that is going to help anchor. To me, there's some fire in there, but not a lot, but there's just a little bit of a spark, and it's not surprising when it kind of shimmers and looks like gold, right? So this is a stone that can be really helpful when we're working with getting stabilized, but we're not in a place where we're depleted, where we might want to pull out a piece of ruby and get some of that life force energy back. This is about just kind of getting anchored and ready to go. It's like getting in the starting blocks of a race, right? You're down, you're set, and ready to go. That would be pyrite. Another example of earth would be rainforest jasper. Again, a jasper is a form of quartz, a cryptocrystalline quartz, and this is a wonderful example of an earth stone that really pulls up some nurturing energy. So in my work with earth, we have this vital energy that's kind of more of that red energy of red jasper or ruby, those red pinks. And we also have this green, this almost like this, it's not like a thread, it's like this wave of green that's very, very nurturing. It's the green we might see in a forest, in a jungle, green grass, in a park. This is where we get this nurturing yet still grounding energy of earth. So that's an example how we can work with one element or we can start combining them together. So the next one would be fire. And we have a couple options for fire that I brought. This is septarian. Septarian is known as a concretion stone. It comes out of prehistoric river and lake beds. So there's a lot of muck in this particular piece of stone. And you have some different minerals as well. So we've got some mud, we've got some aragonite, we've got some calcite, which was this that we saw before. And you have a little bit of chalcedony, which is a form of quartz. So here we have some earth and we have some fire. So it's a combination. So when you work with a stone such as septarian, you may work with it because you are sensing a need to connect with earth or with the fire or with a little of both. Okay. Another example of an earth fire combo is a piece of tiger's eye, golden tiger's eye. Oops, kind of slippery. Another type of cryptocrystalline quartz, and it has this fiery energy of the sun that drops down, and it has this earth energy that kind of meets. So we have both a sun and earth energy. So these two are examples of what it might look like if we're working with those aspects of earth along with some fire. Okay. There are a couple other examples here of stones that resonate with the water element. And when I work with the water element, I find that most of the time I'm not working a lot with the water element and the fire element at the same time. And the reason is because if you have this teeter-totter, right? As kids, right? The teeter-totter. We have the fulcrum in the center. One end is fire and the other end is water. So they're really the same polarity. They're both ends, opposite ends of the same polarity. Settle that out. Putting more fire in isn't necessarily going to do it because we're going to be kind of topping back and forth. What I find will help is to get grounded. So always bring that earth into the center. And then after you're balanced, then you can say, okay, now I'm going to explore this whole polarity a little bit more. Think of the emotion of being really weepy, really feeling sorry for ourselves, feeling very pitiful for ourselves, and then responding in kind of like either a hot rage or an icy rage. I mean, that's the fire water polarity showing us at its worst the imbalance. So bring your earth in, and we can do that by working with a stone that has earth and water, and that would be eudialyte. Eudialyte has this wonderful ability to center that watery imbalance and help us calm down and feel more balanced emotionally. And here's another piece of lepidolite. Again, different than the other piece I had here. Yet they're both lepidolite. Doesn't matter how big they are. Okay, you can have a big piece or a little piece, and you're going to have some phenomenal experiences with them. So that's water. Working with wind is about getting some clarity, and I brought a couple to show you. This is charoite, and I do have rock talk on charoite. Maybe I'll put it right there so you can click on it. When we are able to have a calm and quiet mind, less restlessness and more gentle awareness, we actually do better, and then everyone around us does better because we're much more centered. The other one that you can work with would be, for example, a piece of amethyst. It doesn't have to be a large point like this. It could be a small little tumbled piece that you're putting in your pocket or slipping in your pillowcase. Work with that And you can always bring in a piece of grounding earth to support it. So I want you to notice, I'm going back to my bracelets right now on this hand. I've got fire for the arthritis, and I've got the earth. They're helping to balance, okay? So that's why that shungite bracelet is there. Then we have storm, and storm is this transformational time, and I wanted to show you a couple different types of storm stones. There are lots of them. If you go out to my shop, you can actually sort by element. So maybe you're really familiar with stones that, from your understanding as we've been having this conversation, you understand the earth pretty well, but you're not really clear on wind and storm. Go ahead and just sort by those, and it'll help you begin to get a better sense of how to work with this particular system that I work with. And if you come to see me for an energy or crystal healing session, we're always working with all the elements as part of that. So here is a piece of clear quartz, very wonderful at clearing all the chakras. So these are just fabulous. And then here is a piece of chastolite, and it's called cross stone. There, I think you got a pretty good look there as I'm looking at what you see. This crossing, this almost like this convergence of energies, that's what's happening when you're working with all the elements together. When I'm working with clients, there may be times when they're predominantly working with only earth stones, or when they are predominantly working with water and storm stones. So there is no right or wrong way to work with the stones. Your inner healer guides you. If you have a collection of stones, let's say like this at home, and you're not exactly sure which one to work with, but you're getting a sense that you want to carry a stone with you, or maybe you want to take one and put it next to your computer at work, or however it is that you show up in life, I would encourage you to bring your stones together and just gently look at them, and just one at a time, look at each one and notice which one you're feeling drawn to. And right away, the Udiolite connected with me. Work with these stones. Listen to my podcast about how to work with stones if you want to get a sense of how to do that. And all of my podcasts have guided meditations. So it's a good way to be able to begin to explore how are those subtle ways of the stone connecting with you energetically and you connecting energetically with the stone. How are those subtle communications taking place? Okay. It might be just an inner knowing. It might be a bit of a nudge. It might be all of a sudden, I felt that. You'll know. Maybe you'll hear. Pick me. That might happen. And that is certainly valid. So work with the elements and the stones together. See them as a complete story in and of themselves. So that if you pick up a piece of charoite, you're drawn to that piece of charoite and you get to spend time with it and learn what's it doing within your inner body for healing physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Okay. So I know that's a lot, and I totally get that that's a lot. Take a look at the timestamp, revisit this video and say, okay, I'm going to re-listen to this thing, this little segment like 8 more times until I can kind of figure out what's being talked about. If you haven't been to my online school, I have some free mini courses, and some of them are related to crystal healing. So maybe that would be a place for you to start as well. Okay. This next question is an important question. And my sense is that we're all feeling it and we don't know what to do with it because it's hard. So this question is, there is a lot of trouble in the world and I don't know what to do. What crystal can I use to help? There is a lot of trouble in the world and it is hard. And so the first thing I would say is acknowledging that, saying it out loud, and feeling what you're feeling is going to be really helpful. Now, with that being said, and I want to follow up exactly with the conversation we just had related to the elements, is how do we discern what's going on, what it is that we need? And this question actually goes back to that very first question. When we have to ask the question, what do I need? What am I seeking in order to determine which stone to work with? So I brought a few examples just to show you. If because of all the trouble in the world, we are feeling unsafe, we are feeling very unsettled, we are working with earth. Because when we feel safe, when we feel like things are solid beneath us, that's when we have stability within our home, within our life, within our work environment, school environment, however it is that we show up in life, okay? And so perhaps if that's what you're feeling during this really troubling time in the world, and I will say we're all feeling it, and the whole world is feeling it, and the earth is feeling it. And it can be hard to know what to do. So I would say take care of you. Do what you need to take care of you. If you find that working with a counselor, a therapist, or a pastoral care or clergy person of some kind is helpful, please do that. If you find working with a mentor or a life coach or an energy healer or have a great friend that you can connect with, please do that, because that's going to be helpful, because that will ripple out and you're doing you. So if you are feeling unsettled and scared, you're afraid, work with earth. Couple examples. Amber, wonderful, gentle, it's got this subtle, I've got you kind of energy. It holds. This used to be a bunch of tree sap that stood still a really long time and transformed. And we can do that same thing when we work with earth to help us just settle, okay? Citrine is a firestone and it has smoky quartz in it. So working with a natural citrine can be very, very helpful in settling and calming, okay? If we're feeling that our emotions are running wild and we really are very, very sad, what if you were to work with a piece of rose quartz, that beautiful, nurturing, heart-centered, calming, just tender care type of energy that comes out of a piece of rose quartz? You could work with a piece of rose quartz. It doesn't have to be a big one like this. We can go back to working with a tumbled piece of rose quartz that we might have available to us. If we're feeling we're kind of unsettled, yet we're feeling like we want to do something, we don't know how to get that motivation moving, and yet we keep coming back to staying put, and we're kind of going this push-pull back and forth between earth and fire and earth and fire, when we're not exactly sure what we're supposed to do. What would it look like if, for example, we were to work with a piece of red calcite? Calcite is all about fire. And it's got these minerals that help bring that deep red vital energy of the earth up into our energy field as well. And again, it doesn't have to be a big piece like this. And at the same time, I would say that if this is something that you would have, for example, available, something like that, where you can have it in your living space or in your work environment, um, in your bedroom, wherever you felt that it would be helpful for you to be able to be grounded and motivated at the same time so that you wouldn't feel as stuck. So that might be an idea. Working with the wind element, helping that mental field get cleared out so that rather than kind of like the hamster on the wheel and our mind is just going a mile a minute and we don't even know what to think of next, to be able to get that clarity kind of settled and clear, working with a piece of fluorite could be really helpful. And again, here's a small piece of fluorite, or it could be that you have a larger piece that you're going to intentionally keep with you and in your space when you're moving through this discombobulated time. You heard me say the word intention. We work very intentionally with these stones. We're in partnership with them. We set the intention. They help us to support and live into that intention. There might be that you want to work with celestite, which is, it's not calcite. It's a different mineral, very helpful for calming and clearing the brain space and the thought processes. So again, that's a wind element. And then we have storm. So storm doesn't always have to be super like chaotic transformation. It could be that we are bringing storm in with these same energies that also support that brain space. So this is blue kyanite. So there are some different ideas. You can always reach out to me if you have questions about specific stones. You can chat through my website. You can send me an email. You can give me a call. I'm more than happy to help bounce ideas off of you as well. Okay, so we can go back and forth with that. That is a lot. There was lots going on tonight. So we started with really exploring how do we know which stones to pick? We want to go traveling. Can we carry it in our pocket? How do we use it? What about arthritis? See some of those types of questions we explored. And actually with each question we answer and explore, two more questions come out, right? And then we answer those and more questions, but that's okay. There's always next month. We talked about how to warm our energetic and physical bodies up when it's so darn cold here in the Northern Hemisphere. We talked a bit more about the whole system of elements I work with and the crystals and gemstones associated with those elements and what those look like, because an earth stone is not an earth stone is not an earth stone, and you're getting a sense of that. We also took a look at how can we work with gemstones and crystals to support us as we are navigating the really, really difficult things that are arising within our world. And when we are working with crystals and gemstones to help us heal, then it means that we are aligned. We are clear. We are balanced. We have the energy and the courage and the capacity, the heart-centered capacity to be able to reach out in love, in service, in kindness, and the wisdom that we're gaining through this growth that we're doing with crystal healing is going to be what changes us, our lives, our families, our communities, and our world. Okay? So those were the questions. There were actually a couple questions that we didn't get to today, so I'll start with those next month. Speaking of next month, we are going to be reconnecting next month, Wednesday, February 21st from 6 to 7 p.m. Central. And watch for those links to come out fairly soon. You can always get links and submit questions to me through my webpage. I have a tab called Q&A calls, and go ahead and just submit that little form and I get those answers. Keep me posted if you have questions about anything that came up today. If you're curious about some of my online courses, the free mini courses, as well as my Reiki, energy healing, and crystal healing courses and my Crystal Healer certification program. Please take a look at the links below and reach out and let me know if you have questions. For now, I would say we have done a good deal of talking and exploring. Please revisit this video. There is a lot in this video, so don't expect that you're going to be able to tie this one up in a little package with a nice bow real quickly, because there is just a lot in this particular month's Crystal Q&A. So for now, I simply wish you many blessings. Be well.